on this computer. Hello. That happened way quicker than I thought it was. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. Welcome back to Speak. Today, it's just the two of us.
It is rare.
Rare. I feel like it hasn't been just us in ages. Let's pretend we didn't have like an hour and a half preamble. How are you, Crystal?
I am so good. Not that you know that I'm so good, but I am so good.
So, okay. Today, we are going to do a review of the EHS Congress in Berlin. So, both of us were lucky enough to attend that last week. It was kind of a 2.5 day thing. And yeah, we're going to give our thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, love it.
So, I have in front of me, I have the agenda here. And yeah, look, I suppose we'll be trying to remember who was that person? What were they talking about? And neither of us got to go to everything because you couldn't possibly go to everything or see everyone, but there were definitely a few standout things. But I suppose full review, I was there on what they were calling day zero. So we'll say the Tuesday.
Yep.
You didn't get there till Wednesday morning, is it? Or late
Yes.
Tuesday night?
I got Tuesday night, yeah, to land to roll up to the beginning of day one.
Okay. So day zero, there was a couple of kind of workshops or whatever on in the late afternoon. I missed those, but I did get to the icebreaker reception dinner on the 14th floor.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Mm,
Go.
look,
What's the tea? What's happening?
the tea is I wasn't fed. Like it was not a dinner. It was canapes,
Right. Okay.
right?
So it
It
was dinner.
wasn't dinner. So I was a bit like two large groups of us ended up down in the Italian down the road for dinner after,
Oh
which
no.
was fabulous. And we got like selfies with the waiter and he was all about us and it was good crack. So ended up good. But also, when I say the heat inside in that room, like it was stunning. It was like panoramic views of the city, all that was like looked so nice. Everyone was like, "Hi, what's your name?" Great, I'm melting. Like all
Right.
all people were talking about was how fucking hot it was. In that room, it was incredible. Like we
To
asked
be
the bar
fair,
staff, we were like,
when I
any
landed on the Tuesday night, when I got out of the airport, I thought it was going to get cooler as I hit the air. Nothing. Stifling.
stifling. But I actually think all of Berlin was stifling. Like every building, every room,
Yes.
like, yeah. So that was day zero. The Prosecco was good. The Italian down the road was great. Company was great.
Amazing.
So Wednesday morning, I fucking slept in. I was all about like the first main session was by Eric Hallnagel, who's like big in the new view space.
Yeah.
I fucking slept in. I will never like. Were you there for
So
that?
no,
Well then.
I travelled, landed.
Oh
By
yeah.
the time I had finished the rest of my working day, it was about 1 a.m. and the aircon in the room was broken.
Oh,
So I
fuck.
boiled. So I boiled in my bed until about 4 a.m. and then got about, I think I was probably in the room by 9 a.m., which is you miss because it was starting at 7:20 every
Yeah,
morning.
yeah. It was an early start.
Yeah, so I'd missed, although I think 9 a.m. is a fairly reasonable time to attend something to roll up.
Mm.
I'd already missed an hour and a half, which included Eric, and I know he is absolutely massive. I've even got the Safety One, Safety Two book that I was once given, which is got his name down the side of the spine.
Yeah.
So it's a shame to
Um,
have missed that. Did see him on the panel though, on a panel, didn't we?
yes, we did actually. Yeah. After Eric was Dr. Diane Parker, Adventures in Safety Culture, 10 Key Points. Were you there for that?
No.
Uh, so I think they said she had been a speaker at this event a few times. Um, and look, she prefaced it by saying, I'm not going to tell you anything new or anything you haven't heard before. And that was correct. So
Which is what I felt several of the people speaking. It felt like a lot of the the core point around success is 99% of the time. Like I saw the same thing 50 times in different
mm,
visuals.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm glad that she was. I think someone pointed that out in the panel that she was on as well, where they were saying, you know, breaking things down into key principles sometimes belittles the bigger picture. It loses its substance
yeah,
around what's behind those principles. But equally, I liked her comeback when she was saying, but sometimes people just need this to be broken down in executable chunks.
yeah,
So I am definitely a fan of, give me the crux of the problem, give me the crux of the solution, and
mm,
allow me to adapt it in my own context.
yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't there for her because she was a proper early bird as well, wasn't she?
yeah. She was
But
like 9 o'clock. Um, but like, so Wallace, she did stand up and say, "There's nothing new here," but like
yep,
you also couldn't disagree with anything she said. Like,
yes.
and she did touch on a few
So she was my
kind of
first pick.
different projects or different companies or different things she'd worked in over the years.
Mm-hmm.
That sounded really interesting. I was like, oh, I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah. I'm gutted
So
they missed that one actually. When I looked at the agenda, I was like, that's solid.
mm, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I'll be watching that back because there is actually a link that you can get to watch the
Yes.
first day. So if you go on to YouTube at EHS Congress, you can literally get the streams of the day. So
Oh yeah.
actually, I will go back and watch that. That'd be really
Yeah.
cool.
Next person then was, I'm gonna butcher this man's name. Gerd Gigerenzer. He was the intuition man.
He was the gut man.
Yeah, he was the gut man, the intelligence of intuition. So
I
that
liked him.
was, yeah, I liked that as well. Um, what do you like?
And
What do you remember from it? I'm trying to see if I can pull up the
it was
slides.
the research, a couple of bits of research. I love that it was proper research done on like making great gut decisions. And then so I actually took a picture of a slide that I think is pretty wicked. And it was, excuse me, it shows different roles. So for managers, heads of department, group executives, and then board, how many of them use their gut most of the time? So what chunks? And I just loved seeing that the exec did not feature in the mostly camps. So like nothing showed up in the exec space about mostly using gut because they have to be informed, right? Our job is too informable to allow them to make a good decision.
Mm.
In the 50-50 camp, it was marginal. Like the exec bit at the top, marginal, massive bucket when it come to group. So that the next layer down from the board,
Yeah.
then tiny margin again in terms of heads of, and then massive chunk again in terms of managers. And I thought, this is what we see. We see managers on the fly making great decisions. They haven't got time to say, give me 50 points of truth. They
Mm.
have to say, what do I know? What can I see? What are we doing? The heads of then gather the data, make sure they're all doing the right things and tweak. The next layer up, again, strategy, vision, dynamic. And then it goes to the board again, and they don't really very often get to exercise that gut. So I really loved that. And then there was a bit in there where he was saying about doing research. And so when they get people to make their gut decision, they write that down,
Mm.
say, this is a gut decision. Then they give them more time, too much time. And then they come up with different versions of what they think their intuition is telling them. So actually, there might be option B, there might be option C. Maybe option B is better.
Mm.
And they were saying the majority of the time, the gut reaction was the absolute correct one.
Yeah.
And what they do is they tangle it up with too much thought and mess it up the more time they spend on it. I loved that.
He also said something about when they make a gut decision and then they almost like retroactively refit the information to it afterwards to be like, oh, well, especially in like when you hit to those really senior leaders board levels where people go, explain to me how you came to that decision. And then they'll go, oh, this, and this, whereas actually it was probably gut.
Yeah.
And then his last kind of salient point was, because it was about gut feelings and innovation. And it was 3 ways to slow down innovation. And he said, 1, always mistrust gut feelings. 2, require rational justification of every new idea. 3, create a culture of defensive decision making.
Oh,
And then he has
the
a little
goal.
note. He's a little note on the slide that says, note, banks did not invent PayPal and media conglomerates did not invent Google. And it's like,
Yes.
yeah.
Somebody actually over the dinner in the evening just walked past me. I don't even know who it was, and went, "Did you pick up that they said that thing that banks didn't invent PayPal?" That's really sat with me. I'm like, of course they didn't, right? Of course they didn't. But phenomenal, and I like that defensive decision making.
Yeah.
I like it absolutely gets in the way of everything, and the asking people to come up with complete rationales for all of their innovative ideas, way to ruin it, because sometimes it's not logical. And the other thing that I saw really cool, that comment about PayPal resonated with me when I saw a poster that said, if 15 years ago or 20 years ago you were told that the biggest hotel company in the world did not own any hotels and the biggest cab company in the world does not own any cabs, you would have said we were mad.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah, it is. Yeah. One of those. Okay. So the next one, and it's one I missed, is PDCA and the value of consistency with Stuart Hughes.
Yeah.
Were you in there for that one?
I was. Yeah, really, really good. One of the, I think a real salient moment, if we're going to boil it down to 2 key things. One of them was the value of consistency and the impact of inconsistency. So he was talking about a pit stop, the world record for pit stop with McLaren, showed a wicked video of bringing Lando Norris in, and watching a pit stop happen in 1.8 seconds, right?
Wow.
And said the amount of consistency that takes, and it wins races. It's built into strategy. It allows the team to win. And then they showed another video of a butchered pit stop that took like 5.8 seconds. And Mercedes won by 2.9 seconds. And they said their butchered pit stop was our gift, and we won because of that. So he was talking about lack of consistency can cost you championships, right? And consistency can literally win you races. And the other really cool moment is he was talking about the first man and the second man to ever reach the South Pole. And he was saying one of them trained with the Eskimos, wanted to know how they ate, wanted to know how they beat frostbite. One of the really key things that he learned was about use dogs, because you don't have to carry different food sources, but also what was the so Eskimos walk very slowly so they don't sweat, so they don't get frostbite, stuff like that, right? This guy learned how to exist in the snow. The other guy just did lots of other training, but didn't get to the heart of how you exist in this environment. And as a result, never made it home. And they actually found him, I think, 35 kilometers away from where his base camp was, because even how they set up home and how they set up base camp didn't follow what the Eskimos would do.
Yeah.
And the entire place died. And they chose ponies over dogs, and the dogs die within the first couple of days because ponies get sweaty and they die. And so it was this whole thing around, know where you're going, be with the people, learn from who was doing it.
That's
and
get the tacit knowledge, isn't it? Yeah.
That was really cool. They were 2 big moments, I think, Stuart, and great eye-catching video, pull you in presentation. So
there was a few people who had mentioned to me later on that day and the next day, like, oh, did you see Stuart's one? I was like, no, I didn't see Stuart's one.
no.
But at that same time, I was in a workshop called More Safety with Less Effort, which was by Sidney Decker and Robert J. DeBoer. Now, Robert is sound. I had been chatting to him at the networking drinks the night before. And so yeah, he's good crack. Sidney Decker is a fucking firecracker. Like, he is Wild. And that's kind of part of why I wanted to go, was to just to see him in action in real life.
I
Um,
really wanted to go, but I just couldn't. I could not be sat there for Stu because I knew he would sit there for me. But I was just like, I'm glad you said it because I'm glad he was.
yeah, he was exactly as I expected him to be. Um, Now, look, I've followed both Sydney and RJ de Boer for a while, so like it's not to say there was nothing new in there for me, but I was literally just I was there for the experience of it, and it was worth it. So
Yeah, amazing.
hilarious. Um, yeah, so that was really good. There's a few other bits then that they were all around the same time, so we missed those. The next one, new EHS department, how multiple converging trends are reshaping the capabilities, by Trevor Bronson. Didn't go to that.
Wasn't there?
Next one, true cost of harm. The moral
Who did?
argument is not enough. I also didn't go to this one. Crystal Donnelly.
Yeah, yeah. So I did a 20-minute, 25-minute slot on true cost of harm, and I think the most interesting thing for me, so giving this from the perspective of the speaker looking out,
Mm,
the major premise of this piece of work is we cannot continue to have the audacity of walking into the boardroom and expecting us to say you should and that be enough. I think that's absolute crap.
yeah.
um, and we need to raise our argument from the moral. So I shared some stuff about the beginning of my career, some stories around thinking a board didn't care or they didn't engage when the moral argument was so strong, like what happened. Did a really great job at doing the thing that they didn't want me to do. And then they engage wildly. So it just made me really reflect and go, it can't be that they don't care. It must be that my argument is not framed in the right way.
Mm,
So just did that journey, spoke about the different ways that I calculate the value of safety, and the level of current investment in organizations, having empathy for organizations, what they already do, and my moral accountability to make sure that I'm using that current investment to best effect, and then how to use your stats to create a monetary value of loss against your harm and present that as a business case or work it into your business cases to unlock engagement. um, I had some wonderful people reach out to me about going into their workplaces to deliver the same talk. Some people saying about being able to convert it into different, basically convert it into their work context to help
mm.
them. But most interestingly, looking out over that room, when I said, and there was a one slide that had in the middle of it when it was things that needed to change, and I put arrogance in the middle.
Yeah.
That you can't just say you can't put a price on safety. The amount of people that were shaking their heads and crossing their arms at like,
How
how
fucking dare you call us arrogant?
yeah, but we are. And as I left the room, I sort of tapped somebody on the shoulder, somebody that's like old hat at this, and I said, really interesting to see people reacting so like uncontrollably. And then she said to me, "Oh, because you're messing with that God-given right to tell an organization what they should and shouldn't do." And I was like, "Okay, so it's not just me. It's not just me saying we are arrogant." So yeah, that was true cost of harm. Had a very lovely time delivering it, and yeah, we'll do more.
Crystal available for keynote speaking. Please contact on. Oh, brilliant. Okay. So the next we had on after you was a guy, Paul Davison, Compassionate Safety. Did you see him?
I didn't see him.
I didn't see him. I think I was actually still in the Sydney Decker workshop while those were going on.
The
Uh,
workshops were very long, weren't they?
they were long, and I suppose more feedback in terms of the hotel itself, while it's like built for clearly specifically built for conferences because they didn't have a fucking normal bar like during the day where like you could just go
Yeah.
and hang out. That was weird. But also the workshop rooms were quite small
Mm.
and also roasting like everywhere was. But okay, so next one, breaking the incident cycle. Jeanette Arshmova, Klaus Rose. I didn't go to that.
I think I was there for that, but I cannot remember what that was about. That wasn't a Brazilian lady, was it? No. Breaking the incident cycle. She might have been the complete firecracker that was on stage and put a really cool graphic up that was three pictures, and it said, "We are 20th century educators teaching 21st century."
Oh no. Oh, all right. Crystal's Wi-Fi is after packing up. Oh, there you are.
Back.
You're back. Hi. I was just
Um,
chatting to everyone there, being like, her fucking Wi-Fi's gone.
absolutely gone. It's also saying it is unstable. I could go onto a normal Wi-Fi, but I don't trust it. But let's just, yeah, let's go. So did you hear the three statements on this one slide?
No.
I think on that workshop, that was the one where they put a graphic up and it was three columns and it said, "We are 20th century educators teaching 21st century people with 19th century models." And it was just like,
Oh,
we're destined for disaster because, you know, everything we're
thanks.
talking about, and we felt it, let's be
Yeah.
fair, through the
Yeah.
conference. Everything we're working on has been discovered, rediscovered, pre-discovered, and just reboxed in 10 ways. And we're talking about the same stuff. And we are trying to now think about this wave of new safety professional coming through, but also the age profile of the typical safety professional now. It's, we're talking the majority of the profession. I think I saw the stats when I was doing some work with IOSH that it's just like a massive proportion, the majority are
Mm,
like over 50 plus,
yeah.
which means we'll be retired in 10 years. Um, and we are the ones educating the newbies coming through. So yeah, I think that was quite an interesting. I can't actually remember any more from that talk, interestingly, which is garbage, really.
Um, I think then, like for the rest of that whole day, I was in a workshop. Um,
Nice.
was I in a workshop for the rest of that day? Yeah, I ended up going to How New is the New View in Safety by Jean-Christophe Lacauze.
Right. The just so going back to that lady just quickly, I did take 4 notes on that, and it
Oh, yeah.
was education is the same. So all the education is the same. We're not changing anything in terms of
He
bringing new
seems
people
like my kind of, she wants to bang the curriculum drum. So yes.
in. It does. We haven't fixed the problem yet. There isn't a unified version of safety yet,
Mm,
and there is lots of old poor practitioners still in the mix, still pushing the compliance rather than the proper discovery. So it was good. It was a good challenge.
yeah, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Um, so yeah, I then for the rest of the day was in a workshop. Yeah, Jean-Christophe Lacauze, How New is the New View in Safety.
Yeah.
So really that was because I went in like a backup expecting to be disagreeing with this guy. Like I picked this specifically because I thought, okay, I'm not going to agree with this guy. And like 5 minutes in, I was
You
like,
went in for a row.
yeah, yeah. But so basically what he did was a breakdown of kind of the background, um, the research papers, how far back it goes, when you can kind of see new view coming in, um, like the concepts and stuff from like 80s, 90s, like really quite some time ago. Now he did quite an extensive piece on behavioral based safety, and how it can work in some instances. And now he was like, I'm not promoting it. I was like, you're not promoting it though. But
Yeah, yeah.
but it was really good. And we did this exercise where he gave us, or he put up on the screen like this whole, like a word cloud with all these words. And we were split into groups, and then you had to put the words into categories. So either traditional or new view. And it was really interesting how like we struggled, like every group struggled with some of them where you're going, is this a new thing? Is this an old thing? Is this in between? Like, and there's some that were really hard to pin down. And then there was also, like, even within the table I was on, there were certain words that like just got people going. And they were like, that is definitely old. I've been doing that for years. And then there was other people who were like, well, I didn't hear about that till last year. And like, so it really, I suppose, solidified the point that like everyone's on a different journey, and it depends on where you work, who you work with, I suppose how much interest you have personally in going looking for stuff outside of your safety management system in the business you're in, all that kind of thing. So yeah, that was really good. And he's actually this year released a paper called The Blues of Safety Professionals, where he's kind of done a review of a lot of the books written by safety professionals in the last kind of 8 to 10 years.
Cool.
Yeah, not and he's very clear on like these aren't academic books; these are books by professionals for professionals. So the likes of Karsten Bush, Sam Goodman with Safety Sucks, all those kind of ones. So, give that a read if you're looking for it.
Nice.
So yeah, I think that was it for day one for me. What about you?
I did a really great thing of taking loads of notes, but not putting anyone's header on them
And I
because
took
it's
I took
literally
not a single note in the whole 2 days.
so most of my notes were actually day one. So there was a couple of other things that sort of stood out to me. Um, and I won't go into the reiteration of workers on workers imagined because we've done this to death.
Yeah.
The variance is now so actually one of the things that really stood out for me on that Mercedes, I gave you the two things that stood out for me under Stuart's presentation, but one of the keynotes that I took here actually was he's created something that challenges the plan, do, check, act model and says what it actually does is
Yes.
it's a Pele model, right?
Yeah.
Which I think plan, execute, learn, evolve, I think
Yes.
is the thing. And the major incredible part of that is the allowance for variance, right? The job is going to get done in 50 different ways. It doesn't mean that those 50 different ways are unsafe. So I loved that, starting to really push this idea of variance and humans are being human by doing something that's ergonomically friendly for their body. Things change depending on how tall you are, in my case, how wide you are, how long you've been sat stood for, boredom, IQ, you what. We can't have a standard way of working for every single person. So I loved that. There was the highlight of fatigue as a super hazard. I don't think you were in for this
I wasn't
discussion.
in for that.
And I can't remember which talk it was in, but somebody referenced fatigue as a super hazard. And there was a really interesting conversation in the delivery of this where they said most hazards you can see from afar, and 9 times out of 10 you'll avoid them unless something's gone massively wrong. You'll be able to see a hazard and avoid it. But fatigue is a super hazard because 10 times out of 10 times it has an absolute ability to hurt you depending on what's going on around you or happening to you, and it builds, and we don't really have an ability to comprehend at what point it's damaging our cognitive ability. We can't see when it's affecting us. It had me on all of these trains of thought in terms of this super hazard, and it actually even got a conversation going at our table around where fatigue has played into massive disasters, big train crashes, those sorts of things. And it also made me self-reflect. You know, something's good when it makes you sit there. And I was like, I feel hugely fatigued right now.
Yeah.
And if I had to fly home and then drive at 1 a.m, I would fly home and drive at 1 a.m. That's machinery. I would be operating machinery, massively fatigued. So I absolutely loved that. Really good insight for me, and something I'm probably going to take into work tomorrow. What do we want to
I
see
can definitely
people
see the phrase super hazard becoming a buzzword, but I do kind of love it.
yes. And this whole thing around success and safety, I made a note here in one of the presentations where they were saying about, we talk a lot about what we don't want to see, what we're bored of hearing. What we never really articulate is what we want to see, and then what stands in the way of the professional. So what are the blockers to us really moving forward? And the key phrase I wrote down here is, what do we want people to do right? So how do we move forward? What are we wanting our safety officials to do? What stands in our way? And then what enables us? And imagine if we looked at the profession in that way in our teams where we work. What does someone want to see me do? What do I need to do? What stands in my way? What are my blockers and what enables me? And to tackle those as opposed to tackling like really big complex problem statements. It's like, what's in my way? So like that. I think then it hits on a presentation that I really liked and you loathed or didn't like so much.
Is this into day 2 then?
This is into day 2. I think that was my day 1 summary. And then
sorry, my day 1.
So go.
The end of my day 1 was actually, I ended up in a workshop with Eric Hallnagel. And it was actually, he redid his keynote. So I got that because I missed it, and then did a kind of a workshop where he posed some really difficult questions, but awkward questions. And we did kind of like this world cafe thing where we all answer the question, then you get up and move to the next table and try and relay the answers and all this kind of stuff. So that was cool. But then, in the interest of a full review, at the end of the first night was the dinner at the TV tower. That was a bit of a shit show the way that was organized.
Now,
listen.
Listen. What's the tea? Because it was, I hate this. I hate this. As in having to do the bad news, but
I know. I was like, we're doing it.
We're doing it. So location, 10 out of 10. Well done.
Fabulous.
That's great.
Love that.
The organization of getting people from venue A hotel to venue B, which is outside the Berlin, was not great. Very confusing. Then to only hear halfway through the day that not everybody had tickets to go, so it wasn't an inclusive dinner, I felt massively uncomfortable with, because there were people that were like, I'll get you at dinner. And then I was like, will I see them at dinner? I've said that's where I'll see them. And then everybody kind of was almost like blockading the door, because they were like, well, I need to be on a bus then, because I have to be on a bus to get a seat at the table. And then it got, well, go from there, because it didn't stop there in terms of the lack of seats, did it?
But it didn't. But not only was it only, I think it was only 200 of the 340 people can go.
Yeah.
We were then made aware of that by also saying you will receive an email to say you have not been invited. So then it was everyone frantically checking their phones to be like, am I in the club or am I not in the club? So that wasn't nice. And now the people who didn't get to go apparently got a 3-course meal at the hotel. And apparently it was, we've decided this based on the first 200 people who bought their tickets. Now, I can see the logic behind that, but my issue is, why choose a place that you know isn't going to be able to host everyone? But then we got there, so that was like, okay, so everyone who didn't receive a "you're not invited" email gets on the buses. We're bussed across town to the tower. Up we go. But then
there was no way of knowing where we should go. So we were half up into the main entrance. Then we were told there was another entrance. There was nobody there to guide us.
Yeah.
Then we get inside.
And there's a bit of a spiel, which is kind of a selling thing, which is fine. And we thought we were at the top of the queue to go up the tower, and it turns out next thing everyone just turned around. Turned 180 and we were at the back of the queue. So anyway, that was fine, except that by the time we get up the tower, so it's like the elevator can take 6 people at a time, whatever it is. By the time we get up there, the seating is kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
You can't get seats. You can't get a table with enough seats for your group. And then also about 25 or 30 people who were downstairs, who had come on the bus, were told they couldn't come up. There wasn't enough space. And so then they were turned away. They were bussed back to the hotel, by which time they had missed the dinner there. And they were told that that upstairs bar where we had been the first night was full. So they ended up back down at the Italian down the road again. Now, turns out, I was speaking to a few of them, they ended up having a lovely night, but like, it was definitely tainted by that. Oh,
yeah. And I was, yeah,
You go on.
the the inclusion element around dietary requirements. I was, and this is the worst thing is before this is going to go out, and I did say to Aaron that I would feedback this to him directly, but to have two people on the table that didn't eat meat,
Yeah.
and then to say, oh, sorry, and there was no menu option or anything, but to have a plate put in front of them that had meat on it and say, oh, don't eat that. And they just took the meat off and gave them the same, which was like a few vegetables and sauce. And there was no accounting for people that didn't eat fish or meat. And
No.
not even that, but there wasn't like a veggie. It was literally the couple of bits of vegetable. And
It was
I
like, I couldn't believe when they put the plate back down without the piece of fish on it. So it was fish for everyone, which is not vegetarian. But it was literally, yeah, just a portion of vegetables. That was it. I was like, that's not a full meal. So that was
Well, something when I
very
told her, I
poor.
was like, I am starving. And then it's a long way. It's not easy to get down. And then are you going to go on your own as a woman into the darkness of Berlin to go and eat somewhere? Of course you're not. So that was, and I will very respectfully give this feedback to Aaron, but the way that they did dinner was for us who ended up, yes, our group got broken up, but actually we were some incredible people that had other parties to go and join.
Mm.
We had a lot of fun,
We
although
look, we still had a great time.
we had a great time. The view was incredible. In fact, I think we were the last men standing because the whole place was empty by the time we
100%
left.
we were the last to leave.
Natural. But the fact that I think even the lady that we were with that couldn't eat, that the entire time my brain was consumed with, I just feel terrible for her.
Yeah.
And the lady behind us as well had the same problem.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some learnings.
There is some learnings.
There are some learnings.
Intention was good. Location was good. If you could eat the food was actually good. The wine was good.
Food was
Like
good, the wine was good. It
it was good.
flowed.
If they can nail the logistics
Yeah.
and an alternative menu for those that don't eat meat or fish, I think they would have nailed the night.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And if everyone could have gone, we'll be there.
Yeah.
Okay, so day two.
Day two.
Day
Um,
two.
and my two main people really um, was my man Lendro Herrero. Is that how you say his name?
I am frantically searching for this man's name.
And he was a Spanish speaker with more sass than me with 10 wines in me. And I really enjoyed it. I personally very much enjoyed him. I enjoyed the pushing of showing the NHS posters that say, we won't tolerate abuse. And it was like, science actually tells us if we write abuse, it pushes more abuse to happen. So stop writing, stop abusing people.
Was that him or was that Drury? No offense to Leandro Herrero, but
I don't know.
I
I thought it was him.
I thought that was Drew.
Let me see. Social copy machines. Was he the one that did also the bit about social copy machines? Good or bad, depending on what you copy. It's in the same notes.
Hmm. But they were one after the other. Like Leandro Herrero got up and did his viral change
Yeah.
thing,
Well,
and then Drew got up after and blew it out of them.
I think that's the one really interesting thing because there was no natural pause between the two. You couldn't collect your thoughts. So if you were making notes, as I was, it's one page of notes because it was like bang, 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 bang,
Yeah.
bang, bang. And it was like, I didn't even enough to grip the names or even try and, we served 39 countries or something. To be able to spell a lot of these names would be insane. But yeah, interesting. So I don't know. And now I don't know if it was Lendro Herrero who was talking about abuse, and then we are all copy machines, and that's fine depending on what you're copying. And he was talking about the evolution of people, and showed a picture of two adults walking with their hands behind their backs, and then a little baby.
Oh no, I think I had got up and left the room by then.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he was
So
saying that. Yeah.
yeah, so the I quite liked, so the abuse thing, I think it's all in that same note section, so I assume it's the same person. I liked that abuse thing. I like the copy machines, good or bad, depending on what you're copying. What do you see? What do you do? What do you want others to follow? Was the sort of key message around that. A real big push on signs do not stop anything. They just make so this is going into Drew Ray, which is signs do not stop anything. They just make an organization feel less anxious.
Yeah.
So I mean, Drew Ray for me was like highlight of whole thing out of everything and everyone.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Look, and I had gone from Leandro Herrero was my low point, to be honest. It was very, for me, it was very behavior based. Now, I had done a post on LinkedIn, and thanks to Dom Cooper, if you're listening, I doubt that you are, but he tagged in Dr. Leandro Herrero onto my post. I was like, oh, fuck it. Well, here we go now. Anyway, it's all out there. And we had a bit of back and forth on it. And he did say that, like, I went into a lot of this in more detail in my workshop. And I was like, well, I would never have gone to that workshop. So, but again, it was that very, for me, that behavior-based safety, behavioral transformation, not my vibe.
But I think the things that he was doing in terms of the way he presented, the sort of like the block statement, just to let you ruminate as he was chatting. One of them was I don't know, just basically all the times that we say that something has changed, it's like it's not changed. Mindset was one of them. He said, I've been a psychologist for 40 years. There's no such thing as mindset. There's just what you
Yeah.
do. I love that, which is like, we just need to get all of the front line into this like mindset of, or we need to win the hearts and minds of. It's what you do and what you don't do. It's what you copy or you don't copy. It's what we enable or we don't. So
But then he
love.
went, and then he was like, communication is not change. At which point I really was like, and then he started going on about how, yeah, he was not
The post is
anti-communication, but
saying
yeah.
safety is too important to be left to safety professionals. I very much enjoyed, because it is all of our responsibility. It's not just us. We're supposed to be advice, guidance, right?
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the challenge.
Yeah.
But
I look, and yeah, and even in the further conversation I'd had with him, he was all about like, actually, like, he was talking about behavior. It was kind of to be honest, it was kind of a chicken or egg thing. I can't remember exactly, but he was like, behaviors aren't the output of culture. They're the input and they're the foundation. And I was like, well, we could fucking go back and around on this a fair bit, because I would be like, well, behaviors aren't the problem. They're an expression or a symptom of the problem. So then, like, anyway, but that was him. But then we went into Drew Ray, who fucking blew the place up.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And we
Like,
had a Berlin chat, did we not? Right. And there were people in other workshops. And the minute he spoke, it blew up. And
yeah.
everyone was like, oh no, I've got like major FOMO and it
Yeah,
needs to be.
I'm in the wrong room. It's like, you
You're
are
in
in the wrong room.
the wrong room. Yeah. And also, just to say, if you're listening to this, then go to YouTube, EHS Congress. You can go day 2, just
Yeah.
fast forward until you see like a khaki green, like military colored shirt, and watch.
I think he's at 3 hours 59 minutes is when he comes on, because I sent the link to someone earlier, but like 3 hours 59, and he's on for 20 minutes. But he really challenged everyone in the room. He challenged everyone who presented. And he was on a panel earlier in the day. Was it that day or was it the day before? Whatever day. It all kind of meshes into one. But anyway, he was on the panel, and there was a discussion about, as safety professionals, not engaging with research and things like this. And he put it out fairly hard that he was like, we are the only profession who does not engage as professionals in the research, in the science. He was like, literally he was like, doctors, nurses, teachers, they're all constantly evolving and trying to find out what's new, what's out there, what's being researched.
Yeah.
And we don't do that. And I know somebody so the Congress there was an app, a Hova app running in the background that you could kind of jump in and ask speakers questions. And somebody had asked him a question about like, why do you think it is that we're not engaging with the research, all this kind of crack. And he was just like, you know, people are like, oh, it's like, it's really difficult. He was like, it's not that hard. Like his response was like, get on the bus, get on board. Like this is where we need to be.
Yeah.
And then the overall theme of his talk was the most, if not all of our safety activities are only to ease the organizational anxiety and have no material impact on the safety of work. To which I think some people's heads nearly popped off.
Yeah. That whole thing. So opening it by posing a question, I thought was so clever. And he basically said, imagine if our job was not to keep people safe, but it was to manage anxiety. It was just this question on a page. And I was just like, and before I even could grasp the question, it was like, what would that look like? We'd probably produce a lot of data. And it was like, oh, and then it was, we'd probably produce like very complicated processes. And then he showed the risk matrix, right? And this is the one I loved because it was every person in the room, you could just feel, bristle and like grip the inside of their own throat, like I feel sick.
Yeah.
Like, what we'd probably do is we'd take something that's fairly simple. And he said, and research absolutely shows anything over a 4x4 matrix is absolutely mathematically incorrect.
Yeah.
Probably make that more complicated, wouldn't we? Pretty colors, lots of layers, and I could just hear everyone like, because it would make us feel more comfortable. We'd be able to tell a board with our numbers, be comfortable, we got this. And it was that like ferocious, imagine all the things we do on a daily basis. What enables you to make a good decision in all of this? And you're like, and he did say, data is not there for us to make decisions by, which I would love. He did say, challenge me, I dare anyone to. And I was like, I feel like I do make decisions on data. But he said, we use decisions to justify what we were always going to do.
Yes. Of all the risk assessments, they're not like that has been decided. And yeah. But he actually on the data part, so after that, he did a workshop. And to be honest, I thought it was going to be packed out the door and it wasn't. And that was disappointing again, because people really leaned towards the behavioral stuff. Apparently that was packed. But he still, like, the room was still full, but everyone had a seat. And it came up about the data, and it came up about kind of triffers or lost time injuries or whatever it is. And he was like, for LTIs to be statistically valid, like something like, he goes, we'd have to be killing like 40 people a year. Like in your business, if your business is X size, he was like, other than that, he said this whole like XYZ by million man hours, blah, blah, blah. He's like, it's bullshit. It means nothing. It's not true data. So that was the challenge. He was like, are you killing 40 people a year? Do you want to get to that? Otherwise, stop with the bullshit counting. That is ridiculous.
Yep. And you know what was really the little rainbow back moment was one of the first moments when I was talking that made the first person physically just shake their head at me in the crowd, was when I said the 50-page report to your board is utter garbage.
Yeah.
Not to say that we don't need to be digging into it, not that to say that we don't have the responsibility to find a trend if there is one, but actually when I go to that sort of level, I typically talk about just 6 things, and actually they're not even traditional statistics, they're not even traditional things, they are where you have really, really done damage to people, right? I want to have a specific conversation about major trauma. That's what I want to be able to have, because I'm not talking about statistical, the statistical data. I'm saying this many events should never have happened, and I want to talk about these. And that thing where I said 50-page reports to your board of garbage, and I saw this, and then to have him validate on that second day, which was just like, none of it's all indication of. That's why there's an I. It isn't factual numbers that tell you something. It's an indication that you might have something to go and find. That's what it is for me. It's breadcrumbs. it's breadcrumbs. There might be something here, there might be not, but your responsibility as a professional is to identify that something might be there and go and find it if it is.
Yeah.
Um, oh yeah, he made me feel pumped.
Yeah. No, he was so good. So he, in his workshop then, I have a screenshot here, and it was some universal truths about measuring safety. One, you can't measure safety. Two, measurement without comparison is meaningless. Comparison over time is impossibly noisy. Almost all safety measurement is false assurance. And the slim remainder is all about using fair comparisons to evaluate specific activities and issues. Now, he went into detail on if you were to run an experiment in your organization, it's not just, we've done this thing, and so like, this is what things are like now, we've done this thing, and this is what things are like after. He's like, that's not a fair comparison. And he talks about how, like, in research, if you were to do it this way, you have to have a control and measure that as well. So there was a lot of stuff around that. And you kind of go, yeah, that makes sense. And we literally just go before and after.
Yeah.
Like, oh, our stats are decreasing after we did X, and we just kind of then make up that is true. So really, really enjoyed that. So yeah, Drew Ray, standout, absolute standout.
And there's some fantastic news, right? Because we collared Drew Ray in the corridor.
Yes.
And he's going to come on and speak about hopefully this and like properly bring it to life, bring the challenge.
Yeah.
So yeah. I am mega excited about getting a day in the diary with him.
Yeah, no, that would be class, because it was all like, we were texting because we were off in different directions, and there was like, we should get him on speaking. I was like, yeah. And I literally walked straight into him after sending you that message and did not ask him. I just completely forgot. I was just like, hi Dre, how Drew, I think you're class. So but then you got him after. So
I did the same thing. I was like, I think you're amazing. Will you come on? I said, will you come on speak? As if he's going to know what that is. And then he went, is that a podcast? And I said, yeah. He went, absolutely. And I was like, oh, that was easy. Okay, perfect. We shall reach out.
I ended up actually going for dinner with him that evening. It was absolute highlight. So
question for you.
The internet now is dropping again on Crystal's side. She is frozen. Are you there? You're there. You're back. Go on. Question for me.
Was it worth it?
I don't know. I think if I had been sent by my company, probably yes. But I paid out of my own pocket to go. I think I said this on a previous I'll just keep going, but I had said this on a previous episode that, like, I paid 950 for the ticket. I paid 500 and something for my flights, 550 for my accommodation, plus pocket money. So like, that's expense and annual leave. It's so awkward. Like, this back at work this week, like, oh, did you have a good holiday? And I'm like, no, I'm that much of a fucking nerd that I was at a safety conference. People are like, what? Like, yeah.
I did have a little moment where I sat in that room and thought, I've taken leave for this, and I could have, and it's actually my days of leave are days with Emily. And I was a bit like, is this really how I spend my leisure time at a health and safety conference? And then I was just like, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Because I am that nerd. Yeah.
So look, there was more positives than not. Like, another standout for me was Clive Lloyd. He was on a couple of people after Drew Ray, and again kind of brought the whole thing together about the difficulties for professionals between trying to figure out new view and traditional and all the rest, and none of it really matters if you don't have trust. So you just dropped out again, but I kept talking, and I was talking about Clive Lloyd and how basically it doesn't matter what the approach is, if you don't have trust, it ain't going to work.
Nice.
And I will say, for Clive, who again I had been really looking forward to seeing, I'd been really looking forward to meeting him in person. I've read his book, I've followed him for a long time. I was really looking forward to his slot. And actually, because other people had run over, his got cut short. So that was a little bit disappointing. Now I know it's difficult to like curtail people, but yeah, so that was kind of, that was it for me. I know there was lots of other people that I didn't get to see
I
or
had to head
talk
to the
to.
airport after Drew, so that was the last thing I saw. So I missed the Clive Lloyd bit.
Oh, did you?
I'll
Yeah, he
watch it
was.
though. I'll watch it on the
Yeah,
rerun.
no, he was very good. And yeah, and that was kind of it. There was concluding remarks. Andrew Sharman kind of tied up the whole thing, bit of a synopsis. I don't know, was it 43 or 45% of people on the stage were women? So hopefully they'll get to 50% next year. That was good. He did like a group selfie, and gave out some, I think, swag that some of the exhibitors couldn't get rid of. But yeah, I will say there was probably more presentations that were salesy than I expected, or
Yeah,
that I
fish
didn't.
between the big names, so people were sat.
Yeah, and maybe it wasn't immediately obvious that the next 20 minutes is going to be an advertisement.
Yeah,
So, and look, I get it. Exhibitors have a
it pays.
part, it's a safety market. They help, they pay to exhibit, it helps keep the whole thing going. But again, it's that kind of transparency piece around like, this is a paid advertisement. Hashtag SponCon. So
Should just have a slide behind them that has what is it?
hashtag ad.
PT product. Yeah, PP. Sorry, product
Product
placement.
placement.
Yeah,
Yeah. But so
amazing.
yeah. Would I go again next year?
Question.
Um, if it was on the company's dime, and yeah, I'd have to probably see a list of the speakers before. Yeah, I'm not on the topics. So it was, I think I'm glad I went.
Good. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad I went. I think the feedback thing is definitely something I said to Aaron as I landed. Actually, I haven't managed to do it, but I will pull together that feedback, make sure that gets back to them. But I'm glad I went.
Yeah, I'm glad I went. And like that, it was a great opportunity to meet LinkedIn friends in real life that, to me, like the likes of Stuart and Chloe that I know now with like 4 years, maybe 3 or 4 years, but we'd never met in person. So that was class.
That's
That was
awesome.
class. Um, so yeah, I didn't actually meet too many new people. Like I didn't.
I
While
didn't really venture.
there was a lot of networking opportunities. I felt because there was so much, like the agendas were packed. So you're kind of going
Yeah,
one thing to the other. And then like we were saying before we started recording, we barely even caught up with each other while we were there. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But,
Literally minutes. But luckily, we got to sit together at dinner. But other than that, it was crazy. The pace was crazy. I think what I did sense from people as I was getting in a cab to go to the airport is people were leaving halfway through the third day
mm,
because everything's all in one place. They were like, I've gone to bed and walked in a room, gone to bed, and they haven't left the building.
yeah.
And I think everyone felt a little claustrophobic by that point and needed some air.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people were definitely, yeah, fatigued, fatigued by it without a doubt. And again, the heat inside there. So yeah. I'm just after realizing we never
Amazing.
got our full length photo with your snazzy skirt and my snazzy jacket.
How did we not do
I don't
that?
know,
I love
because
that
we
we've
saw,
luckily
we're
got a
like,
call.
our outfits are fucking class. We have to get a photo. And then we just didn't. We were like, this is going to be the full
You
length
know what?
photo.
Such a point of pride in me wearing me on that stage and
Yes.
then sending a picture to Emily to be like, this is what it looks like when you go on stage. You could just be you.
Yeah.
Very proud of that. Loved that.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. I meant to actually ask you where you got the black mesh long sleeve top.
Amazon.
There you go. Send me the link. Fuck Jeff Bezos, but send me the link.
He doesn't need to be any richer.
No, he
But
doesn't.
absolutely.
Oh.
Do you know what? A couple of people said, "Where did you get that?" I was like, literally £3, my friend. Just pop that over all the things, and it just booshes it right up. Thank you very
Pushes it
much.
right up. Yeah. Brilliant. Right.
Well, did we set a timer for today?
I set it, and I set a timer. I set it a bit late, and it says that we have gone for 49 minutes, but I'd say it might be more like 55, maybe an hour. What's your look?
Crazy.
We had our fun. That's all that matters.
Yeah, and I am apologize to all of our amazing listeners if you are watching this and I've been in and out or roboting. My internet is being fixed tomorrow, so thank you for bearing with me. It has been hell.
Oh, brilliant.
But lovely. Well, I think that's probably a wicked place to wrap. It's been wicked to do a pod just us. It's so rare these days.
So rare.
And having, yeah, no one in the speak seat, just us speaking, right?
Yeah.
Which is where it all began. So thank you very much to everybody listening. We hope you found that interesting. Go and get the live feeds off of YouTube for the event, and yeah, make up your own mind and bring your own challenges to the content. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you in a couple of weeks where we will be speaking about something else. Thanks.
See you later. Bye.